All right, so Paul Bissonnette.
Yep.
Paul missed the net? Does that ever get old?
Oh, yeah. That commercial got the wheels beat off of it. Yeah.
Is it Paul Bissonnette or Paul missed the net?
Yeah, it's good now. Maybe not at the time when they kept playing it over and over.
Yeah.
I feel like that new NBA commercial they just played out. And we went through it first, and it was the time for hardest shot, and then Paul missed the net.
It's me, Paul Bissonnette, former NHL superstar turned media sensation.
Obviously, you know, commercials are on set all the time with TNT.
I'll say a couple pretty good players on this panel, and Biz is here too.
What's it like being on set with Gretzky and being able to be on the same cast as him?
I pinch myself a lot in the fact that I get to sit next to the great one, and just getting to know him. Just when people ask me about him, why I say he's the greatest and the GOAT, it has, you know, obviously what he has done on the ice is a big part of that, but he loves the game so much, and he cares about everybody involved and the history of it. I have a hard time remembering a lot of stuff, whereas he just remembers all of them. And it's remarkable. I would love for them to at some point sit down with him and do a catalog of all these amazing stories.
Like a book of Wayne Gretzky stories.
Or he should start a podcast.
Yeah, right. And just let it
and put us out of business.
You also said that you walked in on Charles Barkley doing sit-ups naked. How does that happen?
He has no rules in the steam room. And I think that's why he ended up calling his podcast the steam room, because of all these encounters. And he's not shy to maybe have conversation with random strangers.
You know, I got this bracelet from a guy in the steam room back in Arizona.
You got it? My experience was I walked in, it was obviously very steamy in there, and I saw some guy on the top shelf doing these crunches, and I'm trying to avoid eye contact and seeing whatever else is bulging out. As soon as the person was done doing the crunches, all I hear is that Biz? And I'm like, oh, hey, Chuck, what's going on, man? Yeah, just stay over there on your side. And he did have a towel, but those towels are like tea towels on him, so it wasn't really covering up much. But I think he's on the Ozempic train now, so maybe the towels are a little bit more appropriately sized.
Yeah, that's good. Are you like slinging it back and forth with him, chirping a little bit? Because he obviously is a guy who kind of, you know, swings it around.
So those guys are at a different level, and I think in the NBA they go like to the heart.
Yeah.
And I was also known as a chirper, but definitely not at that level. So there's a respect factor where I don't want to overstep my boundaries.
What, speaking of chirping though, what's the best chirp you've ever received?
I don't think I could say something that's family friendly enough for it to make air.
Yeah.
But there has just been a lot of ruthless ones come my way, especially at the fact I was a grocery stick or bench warmer or whatever you want to call it.
Biz, what are you even doing here? It's a skills competition.
Whatever you could think of as the worst possible thing you could hear, it's that. And it hurts a lot of feelings.
It fucking means sonk. Sonk.
I don't know what it means.
What about the best chirp you've ever given? Is there one where you're like, man, I got this guy good?
I'm usually not that good with, I could sling a like grocery stick, kind of give it back to the crappier players. I wouldn't go after the good players. And when I would start, usually Shane Doan would just grab me and say, hey, just sit down and shut up, Biz. Just go down in the end, make sure the water bottles are full, make sure the gate's getting open, and that's it.
Water bottles are full. Morale's high on the bench. We need you.
First run with the Penguins, your team went all the way and won it all, but you weren't on the team in the playoffs, but you played, I want to say 20-something games?
Yeah, I was actually up in Pittsburgh, I think 25 games. I played 15 the year they won the Cup.
Right.
And it was cool. I got to play with Crosby, Malkin, Billy Guerin was there as well, and a bunch of other legends. Stories that I'll never forget. I wasn't good enough to make the playoff roster, so I was down in the minors, but never got a ring.
You didn't get a ring?
I don't feel that if you don't play a playoff game, I don't feel that you deserve, unless you were maybe on the roster the entire season and you fell to injury. Just playoffs is such a grueling time, and it's a different season in its own right. I didn't have the blood, sweat, and tears put in, much like those other guys, so I was totally fine with not getting one.
What I think is interesting is you played with Crosby, who's obviously, you know, arguably the greatest of his generation. Now you're working with Gretzky, greatest of all time, greatest of his generation. What are the similarities you see between those two guys?
Just the way they carry themselves, about the way they talk about the game and the way that they appreciate the past of it as well. It feels like they feel they have the responsibility to represent the game whenever they're awake. Obviously the work ethic and knowledge of the game as well, not just things on the ice, but the overall perspective. Just going to my time with Sid, like every practice, he was, you know, first in line to start the drill. skill, setting the tone. Don't know how somebody maybe that young would be able to take on that much responsibility. What's the term? Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Yeah.
And given every expectation they had of him coming in, I think that he ended up exceeding it. I think it just comes down to work ethic and being hockey obsessed.
Yeah.
And how it didn't stop once the season ended.
Yeah.
His off ice, how he was training 6 days a week, multiple times a day, lack of partying, not really getting to have a childhood or adolescence where everything was so dedicated to hockey.
Do you have like a memory where you're like, man, this guy's like, you're going up against him in a corner or something, or like, this guy's a little different, you know?
Yeah, so I got paired up with Crosby in training camp one year, and yeah, at the time I was a defenseman, and he just, when he goes into the corners, he'll just give you that juke, and then next thing you know, he's gone, and you're left holding your jock strap in your hand. Definitely some embarrassing moments, and times where I would see him in line, and I would count the numbers and be like, okay, I think we're lined up. Oh yeah, I gotta tie my lace up here.
Yeah, next up, I need one.
Yeah, go ahead, Orps. You know, you got me here. But ultimately, if you were going against him, it was gonna make you better.
Tell me you don't love it.
How do you feel about the Coyotes too? Obviously leaving Phoenix, that's gotta be tough.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to play there for 5 years, and it being a growing market. And actually, when I was there, we had our 3 most successful seasons where we made playoffs 3 years in a row. And then in that 3rd year, we went to the conference finals. Unfortunately, the year after was the year of the lockout, so it slowed up a lot of that steam that we'd created.
Yeah.
So I believe in Arizona as a hockey market. I think that the hardcore fan base is what kept us alive for a long time, and it's very unfortunate as to what happened there, but I believe that it was a good handoff to, you know, send it off to Utah, allow it to grow there, and then revisit it in maybe 6-7 years when they're able to have a new building, get the fans back in, and have a plan to create success for it from a long-term perspective.
Yeah. Do you think if they went back, you'd want to be like an owner some way, or like have ownership?
Would I like to be an owner of an NHL team? Sure. I might have to sell my stake in Pink Whitney if that's the case. Maybe win the Powerball, but with the way that these franchises are costing nowadays at $1 billion, I don't think that I'll be getting my hands in ownership, but that would be cool. Get out from behind the desk and get up in the ownership box at some point.
I've got a little Biz's film room segment, so I'm gonna give you some clips here. First up, we got JJ Watt playing hockey. Just wanted you to, break down what you're seeing. Is this a guy who can play in the show? Is this a guy who's got potential?
I've seen JJ Watt play. A little faux pas for JJ. He is 99 in football.
Yeah.
And then he tried to transfer it on the ice. That's an absolute no-no to the GOAT. I'm not sure if the GOAT gave him permission with the 99. Okay, his wrister's a bit of a muffin.
Yeah.
Hands are a little bit stonish.
Yep.
I'd like to see him hit the rice bucket, maybe gain a little bit of strength.
Yep. Okay.
One-timers, I'd like to see him shift his weight a little better from the back foot to the front foot and open up. And maybe even a little bit of a knee drop. A little bit more leverage in there, JJ. Get those quads and glute into it.
You gotta get the hips in there.
Gotta get the Shakira hips going.
That doesn't even make any sense, Biz. What do you even say?
There aren't many guys that big that can move like that.
No.
Yeah.
And he's got some good edge work.
Yeah.
The fact that he kicked the puck up to his stick there, he does have some skill. And he kind of looks like Matt Rempe out. He could put guys right through the wall. Now, I don't know what his hockey sense is like, but we're putting JJ on the 4th line. He's going to play limited minutes. He's going to run in defenders through the back wall and separate some shoulders, and that's where he's going to be useful to us. I don't know what he'd be like dropping the gloves, but JJ, maybe at some point, we'll get you in there when the Coyotes are back in town.
And then the next guy is kind of talk of town right now, Justin Bieber. NHL scout allegedly said that he could make it.
Yeah, that scout shouldn't be working for an NHL team.
Stay in school, you idiot!
Biebs, the only problem I got with Biebs is he's a bit of a bender. He's got the
Ooh.
ankle skating going on. He's a little fragile down low. Kind of looks like Mitch Marner a little bit right now in playoffs. No offense, Mitchie.
Don't really give a flying.
I think that he would probably be a little too soft to play in the NHL.
Wow.
You know what,
That's
maybe
your concern, not skill, but softness?
if you put him on a line with JJ Watt,
Okay.
maybe he's getting a little bit more time and space. But
Right.
if he's playing on a skilled line with no other guys that are brutes, I think that he's gonna be in trouble. Although, I will say, if you could mix JJ Watt's skating and body and physique with Bieber's hands, I think at that point we have a 3rd liner on our hands.
Okay. And he pipes too. He could sing the national anthem before games.
I think if he wants to earn his keep, definitely singing the anthem.
Every single game.
Well, at least we would sign him for the Coyotes when they come back, because at least we'll know we'll have a packed building.
Yeah. Oh, kind of a Taylor Swift effect.
Exactly.